Get my
Friends, family, fans, we are back for another episode of Back Nine Bets, episode 158, Lubricated Cogs. Because we've got a WD-40 Classic going on our hands here, friends. There's a ton of people that just withdrew from this tournament. It's a total disaster for some people. For the true golf sickos, it's our playground. And I've got one of the truest golf sickos sitting right next to me over here, GS Luke, DFS on YouTube. And Luke, my buddy boy, what is cooking today?
Well, no bigger compliment than hearing the Gulf Sicko, because that's exactly what we strive to be here. But fantastic week. I'm from the area. Can't wait to get out there and watch some of the action. And might not be Scotty Rory playing, but still quite a field, a really deep field. We're finally getting, out of these signature events the last couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to talking some golf with you, picking your brain on what you're doing this week. Because at least up top, I am having a lot of hard time at the 9-10K range. It's a dicey one. The chalk usually goes to die at this event. So, yeah, I'll definitely be picking your brain a bit.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to have a chalk donkey that gets across the line or a chalk outline that doesn't even get us to the weekend? We are going to see. It doesn't take long either, because this tournament can absolutely just ruin you with how much water there is around there. So let's make sure that we are paying attention to a couple of things that are important. When I ask you, Luke, what is most important to you this week? Is it going to be course history or recent form?
So form for me over history, especially because they kind of changed the identity of this event the last couple of years. I think we almost have to treat it like a completely different golf course. The overseeding has taken most of the penalty way off the tee. You can still hit it in the water, which is something that's going to sink a few ships this week. I guarantee you that. But when you're just missing by a yard or two in that rough, I don't think it's as much of a problem as before. So it's a lot of form for me. Really iron form is what I'm narrowing down on. And with my 6 and 7K range this week and top 20 bets, that is almost like the big primary focus of mine. So I don't know what your thoughts are on the golf course, but that's the way I'm leaning this week.
No, it's definitely something. I mean, if you just filter on, I'm filtering here if you guys are listening on Spotify and Audio, Apple. By the way, show is brought to you by DraftKings. Really appreciate them sponsoring the show. I always get a little distracted when I have amazing guests on and forget to mention the title sponsor of the show. So shout out DraftKings. Use code FGD when you're signing up today to get yourself a wonderful little promo situation over there for us. So we really appreciate DraftKings and all of you. Last week's show was the highest viewed back nine bets I've had ever, including the Masters, Luke. So we've got to have some eyeballs on this week, and we're going to need you to get us over the hump again. We're going to just keep having PRs. So I hope you're ready for that.
Yeah, first off, congrats on that. That's awesome. Love seeing the growth of the channel and what you're doing here, because, I mean, your program's awesome. Everything that you do is awesome. The amount of work and the amount of deep dives that you do on these players, you deserve to have thousands of views on this. And I think someday you're going to get probably hundreds and thousands of live viewers here. And hopefully we can continue that growth for you, man.
We are going to be doing that together, because your show is also phenomenal. When I say golf sicko, you are behind the camera every day. It's a never-ending thing for you. You are one of the few people that also, a lot of the golf industry tends to just put their feet up in the air. We put our foot down once Thursday, Friday, Saturday comes with Showdown and all the props. So let's pump you right off the bat, yeah, because we want to just make everyone's life better. What goes on over your channels and stuff?
I mean, just like you do. I mean, I know you're big into the Showdown as well. Yeah, golf doesn't end after the first round. If anything, it just gets more interesting with the data to work with. And when you have, ball striking metrics, some short game regression candidates each day, it opens up value in the betting markets too. And not everyone's going to be willing to do that work. And a lot of the people you're playing against the DFS are what I call the toilet bettors, the people that are entering lineups at midnight, maybe 1 a.m. when they're taking a leak break overnight. And there's a lot of value to be had in those markets at times. Look at that. We got the live chat going off now. You love to see that. Retail Ripper, a regular on my channel. So love to see that he's coming over here as well.
He's phenomenal. He's a really awesome dude. And I don't see Greg often in the chat, so he's definitely coming over from your channel. So really appreciate you bringing your squad over here. We appreciate you guys. Hit that like, hit the subscribe. We are really appreciative of that. So let's get back to what we were chatting about here when it comes to recent form versus course history. This kind of a venue, we've had that overseed happen now for the last 2 years, which has really pissed off Billy Horschel and the likes, because the true Florida sickos grew up chipping and putting and being delicate on Bermuda grainy grass. And you play a lot of Florida golf. It's tricky to chip on if you don't have the right technique and clubs, right, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's positional. When it gets windy, I mean, it takes the difficulty to an entire different level. And it looks like we might have some wind this weekend, but it's going to be rainy. It's going to be soft. I don't think it's going to be that old Honda Classic that we were used to. And the identity of that course was not only the hard Bermuda rough, but the greens were normally firmer. Usually Florida will give us a day or two of chaos from the weather perspective as well. We'll see what's in store this weekend. I'm hoping the weather gods can stir up something, because I don't think we're going to get those other factors this time around.
No, it's like they've turned this event into like the halfway house for the true tryhards on the PGA Tour, and also neutered the golf course at the same time, which is really interesting. You know, we would have had worse golfers playing on a more difficult course. It would have been fine, because we like to see chaos every now and then. But the following weeks is going to be at Bay Hill. I think we're going to be just fine when it comes to seeing chaos, regardless of wind or not. So I did want to mention, though, when you filter by event history over here, we've only got 3 past winners. We've got Eckroat, Chris Kirk, and Joe Highsmith, each having won in the last 3 years. But if you kind of scoot back here, using the recent form at this golf course, let's go with course history at this course. Looking at the recent form of these guys, and it is a lot of miscuts and things coming into this week, right? So I do like the fact that when you mentioned you wanted to take a peek at more best finishes over the last little while, some recent form, some good ball strikers, that kind of thing, you start seeing a little more green consistently through these guys' profiles. So I think I am just overall going to be leaning into that a little more, but not too crazy. You kind of use it as a, tiebreaker type situation.
Yeah, funny enough, when you brought up that list of past champions, there's a few guys up there that I'm using that are also hitting the ball lately well. So I think you might be able to still find a few course history guys if you're careful about it. And I mean, I'll just point them out. It's Eckroat and Chris Kirk at the top. Both of them gaining over a half a stroke per round on their approach play over the last 24 rounds, which is mostly 2026 now. There's still probably a few rounds of 2025 mixed in there as well. But yeah, I think if you can marry both of them, that's obviously the ideal situation. But yeah, if I'm choosing between the two, I think with the overseeded rough, it's going to be an irons fest.
Yeah, exactly. And putting, right? Because typically we've had to see, a lot of scrambling around here when the weather's been a little up and conditions have been a little more difficult. You miss more greens. So typically you got to hit more chips. But now 70% GR rates, the winner, if he's ball striking the crap out of it, could be hitting 80% of his greens, only having to chip 3 times around kind of thing. So that could be nullified. And as a result, you're having a lot more putts, from further away. So having good putters this week might be another way to kind of find some sneaky options.
Something else I'll mention on that too is that it's going to be that grainy Bermuda now, and we haven't seen that for a while. So like putting form might be a little misleading this week, I would say. It's almost like you want to look at the long-term baseline on Bermuda, then marry that up with some short-term form as well, just because I think it's such a different beast compared to that POA that these guys have been on.
Yeah, it is a fascinating. If you are into course specific stats and things like that, jumping from West Coast to East Coast can really be a fun method of, finding undervalued options or speculated people that kind of go under the radar here. And the Bermuda putting is totally different too. I mean, POA isn't even grainy. It's just like bumpy.
It's not fun to put on. It's terrible. Yeah. I don't know why they have it out here these days. They've got better grass, but
it's so funny. Like the fact that we both call it bumpy as like the defining characteristic is a bit of a problem. But it is very grainy when it comes to Bermuda, and we'll be finding a couple names that take care of business there. So you mentioned, Luke, we're going to be doing some back or nine. This is back 9 bets. I'm going to give you 2 names. You're going to back one and say no or nine in German to the other, because you just mentioned you're having a tough time kind of figuring out what you want to do at the top of the board. We're going to kind of roll through some DFS. I'll pop a couple of my bets out there. If you're chatting about someone that you want to share some bets out, share some bets. If you want to just have them jump over to your Patreon and check those out there, feel free to go do that however you want to roll. The first set of names we are going to rock and roll with here is... I start doing this every now and then, and I've been really, really bad. It's Shane O'Ryan. Shane Ryan. I know there's a Shane Ryan on Twitter, which is kind of why I went with this. But we've got Shane Lowry or Ryan Gerard. 9,900, 9,700. The two top-end priced options since the majority of the top of the boards WD'd. Back or nine, Shane or Ryan?
So I like both of them, but we're definitely going to choose between them because that's the segment here. I'm going to have to say that I'm backing Shane. I'm going to say 9 on Gerard just because I think that Shane Lowry with the course history maybe has the slight edge there. I do remember Gerard having that top finish as the Monday qualifier. That was a lot of fun to see, especially when he wasn't somebody that we had seen out here before. But Lowry's course history is hard to beat regardless of golf course. It's one of the better course histories at any track and any player that we have on the PGA Tour. So in our last 5 years, 11th, 4th, 5th, 2nd, finished T36. That was his quote unquote bad year in 2021. Gerard has the 25th and a 4th. So yeah, give me some Shane Lowry, I would say. Ryan Gerard, I love him. I'm probably going to have him in quite a few DFS lineups this week as well. But I just like Shane Lowry a little bit more, I'd say.
Yeah. The point of this segment is to make tough decisions because it's likely going to put, I'm going to put two names that you either like very much or dislike entirely. But if there's anyone that's sitting on their couch or on their toilet listening to this and they don't know if they want to do a single entry lineup and go Shane or Ryan, we'd probably both recommend Shane from a DFS perspective. I have bet Ryan Gerard to win the tournament at 27-1 when that number was out there before DraftKings decided to just let the entire world take a little, we really appreciate them sponsoring the show. Yeah. So they took care of some people for us over the weekend there, but they dropped the odds on Saturday night and 27-1 was there on Sunday and we pounced. So it is now somewhere in the 15s. Join up in the Discords. You get all those as we rock and roll early. But I am also going to mention that I love Shane Lowry. I showed you guys a little sneak peek of my own. A little top 5 action at plus 415. Ties paid in full at DraftKings. We just see the last 3 starts in the last 4 have been 5th place finishes or better. I mean, I would not be shocked if Shane Lowry loses this tournament again. And by lose the tournament, I don't mean miss the cut. I mean, is in the lead at some point on a Sunday back 9 and completely shuts the bed. That's basically the situation we find with Shane. So I'll be playing him in one and done so that everyone else can do their thing. I'm just going to nuke Shane there and just take a casual 4th place if possible. It just seems like the safest option. And you've got the great form, great course history, all of that. But my favorite bet for Shane is going to be the top 20 at minus 104. I think that's what ties paid in full. We are, like you said, in 2021, his worst finish was a 36th, like in the last 5 years. Yeah. So it's really a venue that he's had a fantastic floor. The floor is almost as high as the ceiling for Shane Lowry at this venue. So great form coming into the week. Love what we're seeing from Mr. Lowry. And, I feel like Pebble is a bit of a better, if you're looking for some comps this week, Luke,
yes.
For the signature event, guys, the Pebble, obviously not a terrible option there, but what other places are you kind of taking a peek at for the non-signature event, guys, which is the majority of the field this week?
Yeah, so I have 4 in my model. TPC Southwind, which is a pretty strong field, so you can get some of the higher tier guys there. But Harbortown, Sea Island, and then Waialae. And I think my favorite's probably Waialae, just because there are some guys in this field that are just brand new to the PGA Tour, so you're not going to have a sample size from those other tracks yet. So yeah, just shorter tracks. I mean, this isn't an overly off the tee heavy course, so mostly second shot golf courses.
Amen. And the best part about Waialae is they played the Sony this year, so it's almost included in recent form as well. It's kind of like a double dip type metric there, which I think is really, really cool. So we have Ryan Gerard with the 2nd place finish at Waialae. It was one of his 3 that he had to begin the year after heading to Mauritius and securing himself a top 50 OWGR and a Masters invite, which is probably one of the coolest stories in golf, really, he flew so far away to go all the way to Mauritius from America. You got to fly across Africa even to get there. So props to him for doing that.
It's in the middle of nowhere, Mauritius. I was trying to find weather for it. I was typing Mauritius into windy.com. And it was showing the middle of the Indian Ocean. And I literally could not find it. It took me a half an hour of scrolling around to find it.
And some guy on a surfboard with the antenna just saying, it's kind of windy right now, or weather's nice.
But yeah, like what wind towers out there? It's a very big island, at least to my knowledge. But
So, maybe Mauritius, another great comp course for Ryan Gerard if you're in the mood. Both great options, but, we are trying to kind of navigate the top of the board if you guys are in the mood for that kind of thing. Next up for us, we've got Rasmus or Rasmus. For those of you unfamiliar with the second Rasmus, it's Rasmus Niergaard Petersen or Rasmus Højgaard. I wanted to do the two twins, but I do think Nikolai would be kind of an easy cop-out for most people to answer there. Yeah. So Rasmus or Rasmus, where are you going with the Rasmuses this afternoon?
I'll say RNP, just because I think he might be a little bit more overlooked than Rasmus Højgaard. Højgaard, more of a casual, more of the casuals to know about him. Maybe not so much with RNP. RNP is off of a win on the DP World Tour a couple starts back. It's kind of spun his wheels the last couple starts, and that's kind of understandable after the high of a win. But now that he's coming over here, I think he's going to try and pounce on any opportunities that he gets. He's somebody that anyone watching the DP World Tour knows the potential that this kid is. I mean, he's probably, I don't want to say he's like going to be a top 25 player in the world, but he has that sort of a skill set. Long player off the tee, good iron player, streaky putter, puts it together around the green. Could really be somebody to keep an eye out for. So I'll say RNP. I'll take the upside play. It's maybe a little bit riskier, but I'm okay with that, I'd say.
Yeah, and when you say upside play and the other option is Rasmus Højgaard, it's kind of how much upside RNP is giving you, right? And it's quite interesting because I've been heavy on him at the Farmers and the WM, which I felt like were two really good fits for him, given the ball striking prowess you need around those two venues, which is his number one asset. Is he's just so explosive when it comes to getting the ball in the air. But I think that we can expect, in the NFL, there's a post-bye rookie bump. Everything happens really fast on the field for these rookies coming from college, coming from the DP World Tour. Then you get the two signature events, or you get your bye week, and you can finally just catch your breath again, even though, it's 7 days between events and things like that. But on the PGA Tour, it's 4 days. If you're playing the weekend, it's 4 days a week that you're playing. So trying to just acclimatize yourself to America isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. Trust me, I came over here and, just even speaking to cashiers at the gas station, which I call a petrol station, stupid stuff like that people don't know about, that you have to get used to when you come over to America. But I'm bullish on Rasmus Niergaard Petersen as well. I think I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. I will be looking to pounce on him at some point during the event, because he typically, I think, starts to get better as the rounds go along. I mean, he tends to find his groove really, really nicely on a Sunday. These are some World Tour stats as well. I mean, having 2.1 strokes gained on the field here it leads the field on a Sunday. Now, these are raw strokes and things like that, but if he makes it to the weekend, you are looking at some impressive metrics there from a Sunday closer, having beat Cam Smith at the Crown tournament in Australia there, the Aussie Open, or the PGA, one of the two, whatever. He played fantastic golf in December and was waiting for that to show up. So maybe it happens in Florida. We'll go with Rasmus Niergaard Petersen, both of us endorsing him. Let's see what he can do. We've got a couple other names. Just any words on Rasmus? Are you more bullish on RNP, or are you actually mining Rasmus Højgaard?
So I guess I'm more bullish on RNP than I would be nining on Rasmus Højgaard, because Rasmus could also make sense here. It's just that I think his range of outcomes are so much wider, because his off the tee play can get really bad at times. His accuracy, when he's missing 30 to 40 yards offline, and that's a water ball here almost every tee shot. So I just feel like RNP's got that aspect a little bit more together. But I think both are playable. I think this week up top, I said it right off the bat, I'm having a really hard time choosing who to play, because I think you can make an argument for a lot of the guys up top. We haven't even talked about Keith Mitchell, Brooks or Berger down the line, or Aaron Rai, but those are all names that I love this week. I also like some of the guys around them too.
Well, Brooks or Berger?
The two FSU guys, eh?
Where are you going? Brooks Koepka or Daniel Berger, back or not? Boy.
So I have to say, I guess I see Daniel Berger would be the side with back, and then we'll see 9 on Brooks, but I've bet Brooks this week. So it's another one, but that's a really tough one for me. But I'm taking the upside and the low floor of a Brooks Koepka. Like, I kind of know that he could miss the cut again, like he did earlier this year. Daniel Berger, though, is like the prince of PGA National. I've seen this guy the last 5-6 years at this course, especially when it was closer to 5 to 7 years ago, make every single putt that he lines up. And it's so annoying how long he takes in his process. He has his caddy line it up. It takes an hour to read everything, but he makes everything. So you can't, doubt the process. Unfortunately for him, he can seemingly only do that on Bermuda grass. His POA stats are horrendous. It's like he's putting like a blind man. The caddy, maybe it's his fault because he relies on him so much for those reads. But for whatever the reason, they get him down on PGA National. He gains more often than he doesn't. And the course history kind of reflects that as well. So, yeah, I'll say Berger is the one that we're backing, but don't sleep on Brooks. I'm not going to fully give him the 9 like we did with Rasmus Højgaard there. I've got a lot of love there as well.
No, I think you weaseled your way out of that question quite nicely there. And I think, True Sicko knows how to get it done on the show over here. I do love the fact that Berger, that little 4th place there in 2022, for those of you that don't know, was my very first article of Breaking 100. I had Daniel Berger at 16-1. I said if he was made in a factory, it was to win the Cognizant Classic. And on Sunday morning, I was at brunch with some friends, and said, my first ever article I wrote, Daniel Berger's, I've got 5-shot lead. I've got this thing in the bag. Made, I think in the first 16 holes, his longest putt was 18 inches, which is when your longest putt is measured in inches, things are not going well for you at all. Caddy must have had a hangover or something celebrating the tournament. He might have been at brunch with us. Who the hell knows? But I do think I'm probably leaning into a bit of Berger this week. We did see a nice spike performance from him at the Sony and the Waste Management. I think the floor for Berger is probably lower than Brooks, to be honest with you, because we've seen some really bad golf from Daniel Berger this year. And like this Genesis Invitation, he basically finished last as well. It was like bottom of the barrel. And then just, Pebble was there were 80 people there too. So just in those 2 events, not the greatest. But Brooksy also missed the cut pretty epically at the Waste Management. But we shall see. Made his cut at the Farmers, which it's interesting, man. Do you think that is Brooks a better putter for you on Bermuda, or do you feel he is? He's a Bermuda
both
guy
of these guys are actually like I think it has to do with them growing up down here and then going to FSU. You take a look at their splits on Bermuda versus the other grasses, it's like a half a shot to a shot better. So in fact, I actually brought up the Daniel Berger stats as we were just mentioning it because I wanted to fact check myself. But the events that he's lost this year, he's lost like over a stroke putting per round was on POA at the Genesis. Same thing at Pebble. And the Amex was a POA overseed. So kind of close to that. The 2 events where he didn't was the Sony Open and then the Phoenix Open, which I believe is still overseed, but it's closer to the overseed that we get in the Florida swing than some of the other courses that we saw. And he gained putting there. So like, I'm a big putting grass whisperer guy. Like that's one of my main edges that I go with. And those 2 are like the poster children of that this week. So that's why I couldn't diss my guy Brooks, because he turns around that putter. He could win this damn thing.
You do not want to diss Brooks because he will hit you with the comeback. He's the ultimate bully of the PGA Tour. He doesn't take no for an answer there. So yeah, if you do like Daniel Berger checks 3 boxes, Brooksy obviously just checking the 1 for easy scoring for me, which is also very small sample size stuff. But it is nice to see RNP with a 2 strokes gain on the easy courses, which I do expect this week to be playing well under 1.5 strokes under par in these conditions. So we'll see how that rolls out. I'm going to take a quick audible here and bring the chat up because they had a back or 9 from Retail Ripper. Seabears or Rye. They're both right over here. We have a slight, what appears to be, at least for round 1 showdown, an edge for AM starts. The wind should be picking up a little bit more in the afternoon this week. We'll chat some first round leaders here in a little bit at the end of the show. Aaron Rye tees off at 7:21. Bearsy tees off at 1 o'clock. What are you getting up to over here with back or 9 for Seabears or Rye?
So if we're talking round 1, I want the earlier starters for sure. Memory serves me correctly. The one that really stands out is like Matt Jones. When he was first round leader, he shot -7, and then no one in the afternoons got anywhere close to -1, -2. Granted, that was the much harder version of this golf course, but Florida golf, it's a lot more receptive in the morning. So for showdown purposes, the tee times are going to be a big part of that. But for the entire event between those two, I'm going to back Rye, and I'm going to go 9 on Seabez, just because I think Aaron Rye, perfect fit for these more positional tracks. Overseed maybe doesn't help his case as much. It was a better fit a couple years ago, but still, I'd say better than average course fit. Seabez, I get the love. I see the shots gained per round over the last 12 rounds. I think that's really what's popping for most people.
Yeah.
And your models are going to filter him to the top 10 just because of that. But I think the love might be getting a little bit too much. Like I see him as a top 5 modeling play in my book, which obviously if my models love him, I'm not going to be the only person that's seeing that as well. So I have a sneaking suspicion that he might be a piece of pretty heavy chalk this week. So for DFS, I definitely want some Aaron Rye, even bet Aaron Rye myself at, it was 45.7 to 1 on Kalshi, which by the way, those prediction markets, if you're in a state like Florida that only has like one sports book, or some of the few states where maybe sports betting isn't legal, definitely make sure you're checking them out as well. I know DraftKings great for that. Sponsor the show. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that.
DraftKings has prediction markets, baby. So
they do.
you know,
the prediction markets are legal, I believe, in like all 50 states too. Prediction markets in general are a godsend to everyone out there. So make sure you check those out if you haven't already, especially the DraftKings ones.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't stop any of my guests saying anything like that. Feel free to listen to what Luke has said. We still got to do another 35 minutes of the show. I'm not going to kick him off for anything he's going to be saying. Yeah, I do agree with you on Bezzy. I mean, he ranks 8th in my model too, which is kind of shocking, for me. I don't really see him as a guy that typically, I mean, just looking at his past course history and his form this year, there's no top 20s, right? At least we saw him at the top of the board around Riv for a little while, and then kind of didn't just spin his wheels. He put those driving gloves on and hit the reverse there for a while. But
he won on the DP World Tour as well. Like I think it was 5-6 months ago. So like he spikes for wins a lot more than people give credit for. I call him Greek yogurt. He's like the Greek yogurt god, right? Because he's like the most plain vanilla dude you'll ever see because of everything he is. The 2 gloves, the way he's so methodical. I mean, imagine an Aaron Rye, Daniel Berger, add 2 other guy 4-ball, like types, you and me versus them 2. That would be hilarious because they would take forever to line each other's putts up. But I think Rye also, I fancy him with a bit more upside winnability. Bezzy is, I just feel like he's an ultimate PGA professional, just trying to maintain his tour card and just play weekend golf, make some money, make sure he can afford his plane ticket out of that town. So we'll see what cooks. Don't hate either of them. I do like a little Aaron Rye a little more, especially in round 1 in the nice 7:21 tee-off time there for old AR. Moving into some other situations for us, let's go with a little Lee or Willie. This week at the Cognizant Classic, we've got Haotong Lee and Willie Z. Sitting 7th in my model for Willie Z, 6th in my model for Haotong Lee, $8,400, $8,100. Very similar range, both in the afternoon. Haotong has an 8th and an 11th here this year. Willie Z with an 18th at the Amex, where he's typically played nicely. Is this his debut, I believe, or at least the first time in 5 years at the COG for Willie Z and Haotong? So Haotong Lee or Willie Z, back or 9? I'm going to back Haotong because I've got a number 7 in my modeling, and then I have Will Zalatoris at number 40. I wouldn't be completely mind blown if Will Zalatoris had an okay week, but the uncertainty with the back injury, him being a bit rusty, is I think the big determining factor between the two, because Haotong has been unbelievable in his starts so far this year, especially with the stats that matter the most for me. Those would be the ball striking metrics, gaining like 2/3 of a stroke per round off the tee over the last 12 rounds, about 0.6 strokes approach per round over that sample size as well. So that's tough to beat with anyone in the field, let alone Will Zalatoris, who in the small sample size as he's returned has also been ball striking it decently. Just I trust Haotong a bit more. And Haotong's not normally somebody that I associate with the word trust, as he's a loose cannon, to put it lightly. You hear him talk and hear him in an interview. He's one of the funnier guys on tour. But he's been playing great. He's been playing consistent golf. So, yeah, give me some Long Dong Haotong, as I call him.
Yes, man. And the dong's getting longer because he tripped over it at the waste management on that back nine. This miscut at the waste management was at one point within the space of about 2 hours, he went from like T7 to miss the cut on Friday afternoon, which is what Luke's pretty much getting at you. Is he can give you. He's like that waitress that's showing up and just walking with your meal and then just trips over her feet and just flies into another table type situation. He's hilarious. There's a video of him walking around the golf course or somewhere in a hotel robe and some goggles, swimming goggles, which he was going to go take a couple laps in the pool or something, wherever it was. And he's just such a character, so he's a great investment if you're looking for entertainment value as well as upside. I mean, this guy is fantastic. And when you say disassociation of trust or things like that, he has one of the craziest strokes gain splits when it comes to rounds 1, 2, and 3 versus his 4th round. On the DP World Tour last year, this is the last 13 months. Okay, so basically since 2025, I'll start making it 12 months once we get through the Florida swing type situation. We just need some good sample size. I do like to overweight the DP and the KFT guys a little bit because, that's what they did on their tour and it's raw strokes and things like that. But I just want to make sure that they get a bit of love because sometimes their metrics don't let them kind of shine on the tour early, when they don't have enough data. So I kind of let that raw data just do its thing. But he doesn't gain less than 1.5 strokes Thursday through Saturday, and then he loses 0.2 strokes on a Sunday. So it's a fascinating regression. But we've also seen him fly up the leaderboard a couple, at the Amex. I believe this might even be even lower if it wasn't for that Sunday round. So these are just guidelines. It just shows you what happens on average for these guys, but it doesn't mean that it's gospel. So any takes on the Haotong Li situation here?
Well, it looks like maybe it's not a bad idea to, sell them or short sell them after Saturday based on what we're seeing right there. Maybe a round 4 showdown fade. But yeah, I think the ball striking form is going to translate to almost any golf course.
Yeah.
So guys like Robert McIntyre, we were mentioning before with RMP, I kind of wanted to mention this with McIntyre. It took him a long time to become the player that he is today. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if the ball striking guys like Haotong are going to have that same trouble because he can almost just top 25 by gaining 5 strokes ball striking alone. So, and I think he's going to do that often this year.
That is a great point. The good ball strikers should have an easier transition because you hit the ball to the green, then get it close, make the putt. Whereas the good putters have to get acclimatized to the different surfaces that they are playing on. I think putting and the speeds and the, I wouldn't say traffic. I mean, the sizes of the field are similar, so whatever. But we get the gist, yeah, people. A couple other names that we want to dive through, yeah, but we're going to first go ahead and hear a couple words from me and DraftKings, and we'll be right back with you. Golf season has kicked off, and there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. Right now, our partners at DraftKings are giving new customers a shot to play free for their share of millions in prizes with their first deposit on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. Every birdie, every bogey, every clutch putt, feel the intensity of every shot. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter promo code FGD to play free for your share of millions with your first deposit. That's for new DraftKings customers. Just download the Daily Fantasy app for your shot today. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most states. Restrictions apply. Minimum $5 deposit required. One single-use $3 ticket rewarded that expires in 14 days. Ends March 25th. See terms and conditions at DraftKings.com/promotions. Sponsored by DK. Boom, boom. Really appreciate DraftKings sponsoring the show. It's fun doing some ad reads, Luke. I'm not typically used to doing all of that stuff. I kind of just wing it here and there. And last week, I almost forgot to do the whole damn thing. So,
well, that was a 10 out of 10. I have to give you props on that. That was amazing.
shout out to Pat for throwing an extra 7 in there at the 777. But when you're doing it, you're doing it. So we're going to dive into a couple. Let's do one more from Retail Ripper. He's running the show. We're going to just have him as my producer. He's actually got he made the intro for my showdown, best ball streams I do. He's an amazing person when it comes to like music and things like that. He's asking, back or 9, Tom Kim or Sol Echeverria, who is Nico Echeverria, sponsored by Morton Salt this year. And we were all pretty salty to begin the year with old Nico, who struggled a little bit to begin the year. So I'm going to pull him up, chat to him about Nico or Tom Kim, back or 9.
I actually quite like Nico this week. He's somebody that I backed for an outright at 66-1, and he's a relatively low floor player, but I'm okay with that in the right markets like outrights or in DFS. And Nico is somebody that I only play at Bermuda grass tracks and also at shorter golf courses, tracks where you don't have to have the off the tee elite play like a major championship sort of test. It would kind of blow my mind if you really ever saw him get into contention at a major, at least with the current state of his game. But you give me a dart fest and ones where you can light it up with the Bermuda grass putting, and that's exactly where I'm going to play him. And I think the reason why Tom Kim, I'm going to give the 9-2, and it's a pretty definitive one for me in this case, is he has been all over the place. He's shown some signs. He's had some gains across all 4 stat categories in 2026, but he's yet to put anything together at this point. So yeah, Nico Echeverria gaining about 0.88 shots gained Bermuda per round. Give me that over Tom Kim that's losing about a half a stroke Bermuda per round. And especially with Nico, maybe not having the best ball striking stats, but right on par with Tom Kim as of right now.
Yeah. Nico going off at 7:30 in the morning on Thursday as well. You never know what happens on Friday. We kind of have a good feeling that Thursday morning is going to give us some good stuff. Also, over the last 13 months, Nico is gaining 0.8 strokes in easy scoring conditions. Seems like as birdies fly, he gets rocking and rolling. So a great approach play, considering he's actually been struggling over the last little while, and not a terrible putter overall. So yeah, we'll see what they get up to. I would probably be inclined to agree with you on Nico, at least from the upside perspective. I managed to hit Tom Kim in 2 of his 3 wins when he was doing his thing, and I consider myself a Tom Kim whisperer, but I'm kind of shouting right now to kind of just stay away for a little longer. I know Kenny's kind of bullish on him at the moment because we've seen some things going on for him here, but again, he's like finishing inside the top 20 only like 10% of his starts, and he hasn't necessarily been playing like the hardest schedules in the whole wide world. So Nico, we know you can get it done for us. The Zozo was a fan. He held off some big names at the Zozo, so he's absolutely capable of doing these kind of things. I think he's very enticing, if I do say so myself, especially at the price that he's at.
I've fallen victim to Tom Kim at this golf course before too, like buying in, having him finish T62, especially after a rough start before. So yeah, I'm on the Nico train.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like you just don't. He just doesn't know what he's going to get, and it's so crazy to see his results regress so hard after just bursting onto the scene fearlessly. Like then he started getting some professional scar tissue somehow. Hanging out with Scotty Scheffler apparently bad for you, which is something we'd never thought we would have heard.
Well, he's hanging out over the ball way too long before the shots. I think it's mental. He's got to figure out a way to expedite that and just be more reactionary, because like the talent's there. He was a prodigy ever since he was like 17. So he's got to get back to that DNA.
Yeah, which wasn't that long ago for him. 17 was only like 4 or 5 years. So we'll see if Tom Kim can find his groove again. I do agree. He just, when you're struggling and then you're standing over the ball that long, your muscles seize up and your brain just absorbs way too much information. There's just way too much going on. You just got to let the muscle memory take care of its job, and we'll hold our breath for as long as Tom Kim takes to hit a golf shot, and then you can see how long that takes. But anyway, moving along, I've got 2 other names for us to kind of take a peek at you. It's going to be Rico or Ricky. Ricky Castillo or Rico Hoey. Neither of them checking boxes, but I'm kind of sneakily bullish on Ricky Castillo this week as the 29th ranked guy in my model, going off Thursday morning, $7,500. Finishes inside the top 30 about 1 in every 4 starts. He will be, When you mentioned you like a lot of names at the top, I think, would you almost say that finding your leverage spots down here where you're going to just sprinkle in a couple high-end guys throughout your lineups and then kind of anchor around a couple low 8K, 7K guys to maybe differentiate yourself, and that's where you take your stance? Or how are you kind of approaching your lineup building this week, I guess, as well?
Yeah, like when I was going to build my card, I was finding myself on some long shots because that kind of is what thrives here. And I think you're right about that. Like the 6 and 7K range, there's some guys that I'm okay committing to this week. And, you know, on this specific scenario, I'm going to go Rico Hoey as the one that I'm backing. Just because if you take a look at the recent form, his ball striking has still been there. Castillo, though, losing shots gained approach, in fact, over half a stroke per round over the last 12 rounds, is a bit of a red flag because he's historically an absolute flusher, one of the more consistent iron players on tour. In fact, my first introduction to him, at least in person, was last year at this golf tournament, was watching him hit balls on the range, and it sounded different. I wonder if that's still the case. I wonder if he's going through some changes, trying to figure out his swing. And I'm going to be out there tomorrow trying to get an eye on some of these guys on the range. And he'll be somebody that I'm trying to get an eye on and a read on, because if he gets back to hitting the irons well, he's gaining off the tee, he's gaining putting, he's doing everything else fantastic. He's definitely got upside if he can flip that. But it's that unfortunately is the most consistent part of golf, at least the iron play. That's what I kind of rely on the most in my process. So it's a bit of a problem spot for me. So that's why I think Rico Hoey is the spot that I'll back.
Yeah, there's a significant difference in their approach play over the last little while between the two of them. I do remember looking at Ricky and realizing that he's ridiculously good out of the rough. Like he's a rough merchant when like you have to make sure that you hitting good shots from out of the rough when fairways are hard to hit. I typically like him there, but I think this week with the conditions calm and soft, we've got an absolute flusher when it comes to Rico. If you could put these two in a best ball squad that complement each other quite nicely, you know, with old Ricky doing some good work on and around the greens, I'm going to take a gamble on Ricky. Hopefully he finds his groove. Maybe having extra water there is just something, because I'm like overly invested in Rico Hoey in best ball, like way, way, way too much, based off of the good approach. Like if you take a look at what he's actually got up to this year, it's been like really poor considering he was trying to win every fall tournament last, November, September time. He hasn't had a top 20 yet. Waste Management was his best finish. So it's interesting. It's a really interesting conundrum. And I'm going to go with Ricky Castillo, but I don't hate the long-term outlook on Rico Hoey, but Sticky Ricky is going to be my guy. Hopefully he can chip and putt his way through this course, mainly putting and playing good golf out the rough with really bad iron play entering the week. Not going to mention Sammy Valimaki too much. I think he's a phenomenal option at $7,600. Are you in the mood for some Sammy this week?
He checks my model, that's for sure. He's in the top 15, and I see he's checking 4 boxes for you. So I think I might have to put him down as a yes right now.
Yeah, no, he's sneaky. He's sneaky. Luke, I have a really random question for you, because it's not often you can chat to someone about Showdown stuff. Did you play Sepp Straka in round 3 of Showdown at the Genesis?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had like negative points.
Like,
and he was what's so cocky. He was like the highest owned guy.
Yes, it was. We were all in the Discord, and it's like, wait, is that Sepp Straka at 30% ownership on a Saturday? It's like, okay, well, at least he's playing good golf. Like you don't want to be the other 70% that doesn't have him. 1.8 points. Like, it's just like, what on earth? He shot an 80. It was one of the craziest situations. But Sammy was one of the few guys that I was, sticking in there with him, and he's found some groove after a slow start to the year. So multiple top 40s in the last little while. Two of them
on the DP World Tour too. Like, it's not even just the PGA Tour stuff. Everywhere he's played, he's been really solid.
Yeah, and he's undervalued in the pricing market. I mean, in this field at $7,600, I think that's an absolute value in my opinion. So we'll see what he can get up to for us. Let's chat a couple other banners over here and let's go with Vince or Ventura this week at the Cognizant Classic. Vince Whaley or Chris Ventura. I need to find them on the board as we're scrolling. I'm seeing a Vince Whaley, and I think Ventura has to be nearby. But we're just gonna filter on them. But I have bet Chris Ventura at 80-1. He is the number one putter in my model. I think if you are 80-1 and the best at a metric that I kind of value, probably second to approach play this week, give me Chris Ventura this week at the Cognizant. Back or 9, Vince Whaley or Chris Ventura for you, Lukey?
I have no strong feelings in either direction, but now that you've mentioned that on Ventura, I have to full-heartedly agree. He's getting 1.9 shots gained putting per round over his last 12 rounds.
They're both great putters, actually, which is hilarious. I didn't realize.
Yeah, when I was putting together this sheet, I literally thought I did something wrong. Like I was pulling my metrics from the wrong area, or like maybe had it off by one column or something.
Yes,
because like it's like a shots gained total sort of thing, 1.9 shots gained per round. But no, that's how good of a putter he's been. So that's number 2 in my model this week. I'm going to at least get him some Chris Ventura on DFS. But you bet him to win, right? What did you get
win with an each way at 80-1 on a book
okay.
that's floating on a river somewhere out there? So
I'm gonna have to see if I can get a little top 5, top 10 bet there.
I think he's a sneaky option. He's playing the best golf, of the last couple splits, whereas Vince has kind of gone the other way. It's hilarious. I just hammered Vince Whaley into every single one of my best ball squads at the end of drafts because the man could not miss a cut. I mean, if we're taking a look at his cut-making ability here, he's making 74% of his cuts in the last 13 months, with 3 of them being missed cuts in the last 3 starts. So it's just like, I honestly get so caught up in the off-season nonsense because a couple guys get hot in the fall, and then you're like, oh, they're going to carry this over. And then that break just absolutely just derails any and all momentum for a lot of these guys, like Xander. Went and won the Bay Current and then shows back up here, and it takes a while until Riv, 6 weeks into the events, into the season, to kind of find his way to the top 10 again. So interesting stuff. So
Rico Hoey lost his superpowers too. Like I was just thinking about that. I was like, this guy is top 10ing every week, and then now what has Rico Hoey done? So it's crazy how that works out with these guys.
If you go and listen to best ball content I was out there, you're going to hear once a show, Rico and Nico at the 4-5 turn. People love that. And then we saw what Nico got up to just begin the season as well. So like, whew, it's been tough for your boy, but I'm obviously up on Ventura. Yeah, he checks 3 boxes for a $7,200 option, 13th in the model. That's well ahead of where he is on the pricing board. Yeah, so a 22nd at the Farmers. Good to see that there as well. I'm bullish on him. I think he's a name that's easy to remember, but not a lot of people will be clicking. I think in a field like this,
sub 3% ownership, probably, maybe even close to 1.5, 2. Like that could be the nuts for large 150 maxes.
You see, and I'm going to put him in way too many lineups, and he's going to forget how to putt this week, and then we're going to sit here looking like a bunch of idiots. But over the long run, I'd probably play that play over and over again. So
process over results.
My man.
Gotta get into the right plays. That's why, hey, it doesn't always work out, but as long as the idea is there and you stick to it and you give yourself a sample size, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and to me, some of the best part about golf handicapping and just getting into golf content is the prep and the research and the speculation and things like that you have to get into, because you cannot be afraid to look like an idiot if you're getting behind a golf camera. Because Scotty Scheffler, guess who started betting Scotty Scheffler first round leader at the Waste Management Phoenix Open?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So,
no one would have thought that would have happened. I definitely didn't. Yeah.
30% of Showdown had Sepp Straka. We gained them.
Exactly.
You could have gone out there and scored more points than Sepp did. So we're going to check our next couple guys. Yeah, I got 2 names, Gary and Joel, both on the 7K options over here. Joel Damon not checking a box. Gary checking 1. Back or 9, Gary Woodland or Joel Damon, Luke?
I am backing Gary, the hometown guy. He's from my town, Delray Beach, down here in Florida. So he's going to be sleeping in his own bed. Maybe there's something to that. But between the 2 players, they're very similar at this stage of their careers. They're mostly ball striking poppers. Every once in a blue moon, they catch a little bit of heat on the greens. And when they marry that up, you get a potential top 10 out of them. So I don't think that either one is a particularly safe play. But in the right sort of better format at the right kind of odds, there's upside, and I would go towards Gary Woodland here. I'd have to double check the course history. I don't know if that is necessarily backed up, with the results, but let me double check that.
Yes.
Yeah, Woodland cut, and then 5th. So I guess that's okay. Let's look at Demon. 32nd in cut.
Gary's like long-term course history. I think he's had a couple like good
top-end finishes, right?
high-end finishes back in before 2021.
That would make sense.
In my opinion, he's a more rejuvenated golfer. I mean, now, he's leading the field in ball speed, leading the tour. So he's obviously feeling healthy and back in the gym. You don't just gain ball speed like that. You're obviously pumping some iron or doing whatever Gary does. And that's bullish to me. And we'll see what he can do. Joel's also interesting because we've got 2 solid finishes for someone that doesn't necessarily have full tour status this year. And a 7th at the Farmers makes a ton of sense. The guy was peppering every single fairway until Sunday. And, that's what happens under the gun. You get a little nervy and miss a couple inches of fairway and then you're in thick rough. So it is what it is. But neither with the greatest course history. I do want to mention that Gary is like a course fit fiend this week for me. He's 4th in the micro model, which is like kind of crazy. Let's actually just pull that up real quick. I'm really, really curious to see what mistake I made here when it came to Gary Woodland, but his numbers at this golf course, he's not necessarily going to be, it's the around the green stuff and the high GRR rates this week that's really helping him a lot. 94th in my rankings here for around the green play, but 33rd in putting, 6th in approach yardage and driving distance, which isn't a big deal here, but still gaining tons off the tee, gaining tons of green regulations, hitting mid irons really, really solid, hitting the long irons really, really solid. Not the greatest from inside 150, but most of the shots we're going to be seeing here is like 150 to 200. So I love that for Gary Woodland, and he's found some putting, which is not something we can often say about the G-Man. So we'll see what he can do for us.
He has 4 top 8 finishes at this course. I looked at some of the older stuff, and he's never had like a true spike putting week either. So imagine if he does. Imagine if he gains a stroke or stroke and a half putting per round. It probably turns a top 5 into a win. So I can see
I mean, let's go. That would be such a cool story as well, because old Gary, been through a lot trying to get his stuff out there. We're going to rock and roll with one more name. Zzz. And it's going to be ADDC or ADHD or AP this week, which is Andrew Putnam. So Adrian Demont du Deschart or Andrew Putnam this week at the Cognizant Classic, back or 9.
I feel like Putnam's a better course fit, just based on the fact that he's more of like that positional player. Mm-hmm. But ADDC is playing better golf at this point. So it's kind of like whether you want to back that recent form or that course fit / course history. And I feel like I said it earlier that the recent form is probably the more important factor. So it's a really close one, but I'm going to have to go ADDC just because of that fact alone.
It's 2 guys that check 2 boxes for me, so I figured we'd get 2 guys that I'm kind of probably going to play both. But if we're going to have to pick, nitpick and split hairs here, I'm going to go with, did you say you going with ADDC?
ADDC, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Andrew Putnam this week. I just if you're going to just literally lightning in a bottle 2 specific stats and just take the 2nd at the Amex and the 11th place here last year, I do think he's a short course specialist. I don't see him. Sure. He's what is his ranking when it comes to driving distance in a 120 man field? This 121st. There's someone that's not even playing in this week. Oh no, there's 123 people. Thank God. Always weird seeing numbers that. Yeah, I was going to say who's the random Joe Schmo that's also out driving him off the tee from the gallery. Yeah, but really good around the greens. He's a mediocre putter. Starting to find his groove a bit on a course like this inside of 200 yards. So both are available, and I'm going to start rattling off some bets for you guys with Andrew Putnam from the top rope over here. 165 to 1 at DraftKings to win this tournament, betting 1.1 units to win 16.5. It's a minimal investment there if you are looking for like a high-end return situation. Ladder rung number 1, top 5 at 20 to 1, basically. Ties paid in full. Let's go for that top 5 for Andrew Putnam. And then we're going to go to the top 10 market over there, basically 9 to 1 for that. And then the top 20, we're going to be betting 0.3 units on that one to give us over a unit return for the top 20, which I think is probably a bit more realistic situation for him. But again, we have seen lightning in a bottle on the greens at the Amex. You never know. He's played okay at that kind of a venue before. Get him on some short courses, 11th place here last year. We'll see what he can do. I think he's a sneaky little option there. Like them both, though. Like them both.
You have any thoughts about David Ford by chance? I love him this week. He's like one of my sneaky value plays because of the ball striking form of the team. And I also think he's just a high upside guy. I mean, those guys coming over from the top end of the collegiate list have done well. So I don't know. I want to see what you think about him.
I'm having to look at him because I haven't touched him much this week yet, because I don't think he's going to pop hard in models because of the lack of data that we've got for him. So I think if you can really, nitpick a couple things and find what makes sense for him, the chipping and putting stuff seems to be struggling, and it's just not the greatest metrics for him. But if you're just taking an overall gamble on his upside, as I'll ask you this question actually in return. What do you think the top 3 PGA Tour you guys taking on, say, 53, 54, and 55 on the KFT, back or 9, where are you going? The PGA Tour you guys are ridiculously good.
The collegiate guys, for sure. No doubt about it. Yeah. I think that they could beat a lot of the PGA Tour guys that have kind of just been around for forever. They're in that 100 to 120 range. I think they smoke those guys. Long term. Maybe not right away. They got to get some experience, but talent-wise, they smoke them.
And David Ford is largely to blame for Blades Brown getting into the final group with Scotty Scheffler. He was Blades' hype man for 3 straight rounds at the Amex. He's a phenomenal person. Phenomenal
and he played
person
well there too.
Yeah, he did. And Blades was outshining him like crazy, and he finished 13th. So I think he might have even beat Blades. I don't know. And Blades had a bit of the Blades got blunt on Sunday there playing with the world number 1. But it is, welcome to the PGA Tour, Bladesy. But David Ford, 13th at the Amex, 50 at the Sony. I do feel like he's one of the guys that typically should thrive on distance heavy venues, just from what I've gathered off of the small things I've learned about him. Hit me a couple more tidbits on him. You seem to really fancy him.
So this is what I've kind of noticed on Ford. So in the 12-round sample size, which is, it's small, but it's what he's done on tour this year, he's gaining 2/3 of a stroke per round off the tee and 0.9 strokes per round on approach. That is up there with Lowry and Gerard in terms of just ball striking alone. Yes. Unfortunately, he's losing 0.75 shots gained short game. So he's giving back most of that. I'm a slut for ball strikers. I've said that so much that if you just give me any semblance of form of those 2 categories, I kind of lean into it a little bit more. So that's what I'm liking on Ford. And from what I've noticed, he's a lefty. He's really short too. He's like Brian Harmon height.
Okay. So
no shade.
I'm lying to you about driver heavy golf courses. My bad.
But if he's gaining this much off the tee, he's still got a little bit of giddy up there, and he hits a lot of fairways too, I think. So I think he's a sneaky fit this week. Maybe not so sneaky because I talked him up, but sneaky for me.
I want to focus in on what you mentioned there, being a slut for ball striking, because the reason you I'm going to put words in your mouth is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because ball strikers are typically a more predictive stat in general. You do have good putters that will always be good putters pretty much every single week type thing. But the difference between ball striking and short game is, if I put you, whoever's listening right now, 220 yards away from a pin with water having to carry 190 of it, there's a lot of people that can't do that. And it's literally a physical threshold that some people cannot get over. Ball strike, these guys are all good enough to have spike ball striking rounds, but the level that they have at ball strike, the threshold that you need to be a great ball striker is just that much higher. If I take you listening to this, all 1,700 of you guys last week, shout out to you all, put you on a putting green, you could have 1,000 balls and you don't have the physical threshold to not get that ball in the hole. Like you could putt a ball 20 feet and you could be one of the worst putters in the world, but if you have enough balls, you could eventually get one in because you're going to misread it and mishit it and it could go in. Whereas you just don't have the physical ability to kind of be a great long iron player to hit a 275-yard nuke like Aldrich does from the middle of a fairway on a par 5 and have a 6-foot eagle putt, you know? So I did a really bad job of explaining why the two stats are different there, but what do you have to say about that, Luki?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in the ball striking, just especially from like event to event and round to round, because you'll see guys go from losing like 4 strokes putting a day to gaining 4 the next. You'll still see that with the approach stats and the off the tee stats, but it's not nearly as common. And just somebody, and I know you noticed this with Showdown because it's part of your process too, but that's why that those stats, like I've just noticed it over the last few years, they're just so much stickier than what you have in the short game stats. And I think that a lot of times, like you saw it with guys like Sergio or like Luke List, where they'd always hit the ball well. But when they randomly spiked off for a good putting week, and Colin Morikawa's kind of like this, they almost always won or got into the top 5, top 10. It's kind of what David Ford's looking like. Is like if he can just hang around, kind of make some top 25s, top 30s, and then every once in a while spike off for a top 5, he'd have a pretty lucrative career. So it's a small sample size, but that's what he looks like to me.
Yeah, David Ford, the American version of RNP. So
yes,
you know, I think we can make, but not as long. I have a weird driving distance thing with David Ford. I need to get out of my head right now. I see a couple other names that I do want to mention to you and the chat here, Luke. We're going to be looking at some first round leaders. I've got 3 bets for you guys, and I might actually add a 4th because I saw a name that I didn't bet that I do want to have in the first round leader market. This is all from last week. I'll get that taken care of as we go. But SH Kim, he's my guy when it comes to first round leader markets. He is 90-1 in the first round leader market if you're in that kind of a mood. He's a phenomenal first round leader. He cashed 55-1 for me at La Quinta. He's got the 6 places on the bets there floating on the river. And I think SH Kim, I'm just going to ride it until the wheels fall off at 90-1. I feel like that's a very solid option considering he's also, a lot of these first round guys tend to struggle in the Sunday situation, don't they? So that's a good way to take advantage of the upside is in the first round leader market. Any thoughts on SH Kim?
Yeah, you want the guys with the wide range of outcomes. SH is definitely one of those players. And I guess, yeah, like you said, you can see the trend on the right side of all those top guys. Loss, one guy gaining, neutral, loss. Then you have a few guys that are gaining that are some better players like a Shane Lowry. But yeah, that's not something that I've personally incorporated as much into my process, but I think I need to because you see the trend on both sides of that. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, and this is 13 months of data. So it's what, like at this point, it's approaching like maybe 30 rounds of golf for some of these guys. Typically, the KFT guys have a couple more. And it proved, I mean, this is what happened with Cristobal Del Solar. You know, when he was doing his thing on Corn Ferry, he shot that 59. It wasn't even on a Thursday, but he typically was just a beast on Thursdays. And then he came through for us at the Canadian Open. So it's not going to happen every single time. And this could largely be because of spike rounds on a Thursday as well. They might not be consistently good on a Thursday. They might just have really good rounds, which, you know, for first round leader and Showdown, that's really kind of what you're looking for anyway. So he is going to be my first of the 3 bets that I have on my screen for you guys here. Keith Mitchell, next up on the board, 45-1 at the book that's open every day of the year. Like Kenny likes to say, 40-1 with 6 places that I could get out there. I think old Keith Mitchell, he is obviously, I mean, wasn't he first round leader for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row last year when we hit this stretch of golf kind of thing. So talk to me about Keith.
I actually bet Keith this week. So if you're looking at the first round leader market, I might need to add that too, because it would be tilting if he was first round leader and then didn't win. So I might have to get some exposure to tell you, but yeah, he's won at this course before. He's got 2 top 9 finishes the last 3 years, and it was since some of the course changes. And I actually think that making it overseeded and some of the misses not being as penal plays directly into his skill set. So is he in early? I'm assuming he's in early tee time, right?
Yeah, no, all of these bets are first round leader AM slots, you know, early stuff. So He's going to be.
He was the number one round one scorer for a long time last year. I'm not sure if he kept that to the very end. I think he may have fallen down to like number 5 through 10. But still, he's going to be one of the best players from that category, I would imagine.
Yeah, and again, he had a couple bad Thursdays, which is helping out Corgia at 40-1. I think that's a very fair price for a guy that we know is very, very impressive when it comes to the round one stuff. Then I have Adrian Sadier. Total, I mean, I don't even really know what this guy even looks like. Gains 1.7 strokes on a Thursday. So let's see what he can do. I think 1.7 strokes there, and then he just kind of loses gas over the weekend, which is kind of interesting. But in round one showdown, he's going to be $6,900, popping pretty hard for dollar point per power rating over there. So let's see what he can do. 100-1. I'll take the six spots there as well. Very, very affordable, if I do say so myself. I was eyeing out Haotong for first round leader, but I don't like the 1 o'clock tee time for him. I would imagine the winner of first round leader comes in the AM on Thursday, especially with what the weather looks like.
It just feels like that's the prudent thing they do. It's just to sprinkle that side. And I think Sadier too, he was first round leader at least twice towards the very end of last year's DP World Tour season. And I'm not entirely sure what he did earlier in the year, but there's a lot of steam behind that. It makes a lot.
Let's go. I love that you complimenting me there with the DP guys, knowing exactly what's cooking over there, having him get across the line a couple times. Another guy that's been pretty solid with high cut rates is Sam Ryder. I do not have him on the banner because I was taking a peek. These just dropped right before the show, so sometimes they slip through the cracks. But he gains 1 point. I mean, his best metric is round one by 1.2 strokes, like over a full shot. He gains over his second, third, and fourth rounds. Mr. round one himself. He's 92-1 at DraftKings, friends, for first round leader. So I'll be betting that as well, along with the top 5 first round, as well there, which would probably be somewhere in the double digit teens to make sure that I have to bet the top 5 stuff, because it's just so tilting when you get the guy right and he finishes second and you get nothing for it. It's really why I love placements the most, Luke, is because they allow you to just have the process reward you still. It's like a balance build in like DFS, right? Where you kind of making sure that you do have a top 10, you're still getting a decent payout versus, massive GPPs. If you don't have the nuts, you could land up still finishing 10th and making a bit of bucks, but, nothing too cray-cray.
No, I'm with you on that. It saved my, bankroll the last 2 weeks. It's essentially put me right back at even money, just getting a long shot top 20. It was a Penge for me last week. And then a couple weeks ago, it was Rio and Tom Hoagie at the same time, who I know you were a big believer in Tom Hoagie that week too. So that was a good one for both of us.
I'm a big believer in Penge, and I'm happy to see I'm happy to see him do his thing at Riv finally. Him and both Aldrich, 35 pounds down, EXG, new caddy, just everything. This is like, I'm a new guy. So he's going to be playing API. I'm really excited for him to see what he can do for us. But Lukey, thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you for bringing over a couple of your followers from your amazing YouTube channel and all the things you do over there on your Patreon. Let everybody know what's cooking, and I'll get us out of here after that.
Absolutely. You guys can find me on YouTube at GSLukeDFS. We'll be doing a live stream tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I'll be walking the course in the practice round tomorrow. Kenzie Harada, I might be able to get inside the ropes and walk with him and interview him a little bit. So if you guys want to see some of that info, just check that out tomorrow night.
Let's go, man. Have a blast out there. I almost wanted to wear my John Deere Classic hat with you because that's my baby. Yes. You and Mr. Idoni love repping the Cognizant for us. And go follow Luke at GSLukeDFS on X, right?
Yes.
That's your handle over there. You'll be pumping out awesome things and taking amazing photos of ribeye steaks.
Oh, yeah. That's my thing is, splurging on steaks every once in a while, then always sharing them on Twitter.
Let's do what? Have you got 1 more minute just to chat about some steaks?
Absolutely.
Quickly?
Yeah.
Is that your go-to, like a ribeye, or is there like a special steak that you have if you...
So it's not like the one that I'll buy if I'm like really splurging. If I'm going to do that, I'll get Wagyu at a restaurant. I won't cook it myself because I'm afraid of messing it up. I'm good at cooking steaks, but just levels to it, I suppose.
Yes.
But yeah, ribeyes, I know how to cook better than anything at this point. Heck, I have steak 3-4 days a week at this point. And I always get the bone with the bone because I always see the stories about like the manufacturing meat and like it just kind of sketches me out. So I always get the bone on it because it feels a little bit more real, a little bit more like it's harder to fake that. It's not like they can't glue it onto the bone. But yeah, I get a lot of bone in ribeyes because of that.
Hey, it's like ball striking, like it's the bone's there, it's come from a real cow. So it's a good thing. Did you use the tinfoil method with butter?
I did. So I did it with, I had some New York strips that night, which were a little bit thinner, and it's easy to overcook those. So rather than basting them on the pan, I did it with your method. I did it with the tinfoil, just threw some butter in there that while it rested to eating temperature, and it was beautiful. So yeah, I owe that to you, Byron. That was a new tech. I hadn't really tried that one before.
Yeah, especially with some tougher cuts of meat, especially if your mother-in-law doesn't like it anywhere red, still just a little bit of butter helps make it like a little less cardboardy. And but ribeyes, you don't even need the butter. If you want, you can, but that is just such a good cut of meat. You got to always spend a little extra on a ribeye if you're cooking it yourself, and don't ever cook that thing more than medium, people, because medium well. You want to make sure that you're eating good meat at the right cooking.
Yeah, I'm a medium rare guy here. So, but yeah, anything over medium starts to become a little sacrilegious.
Yeah, I know. It's like just buy a New York strip then, and then just cook that like that.
Exactly. Just cook it the whole way through.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome stuff, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much to DraftKings for sponsoring the show. Use code FGD as you guys sign up over there. Check out Fantasy Golf Degenerates on the same Mayo Media Network you are on right now. The show will be coming out on the audio stuff as well a little later. And I'm also doing Sunday previews with I call him G-Spot DFS, Sweet Spot DFS over on YouTube as well. We recapped last week. We shoot for 2 hours and we get 3. That's just how it goes. So we have a good time having a good time. So hope you guys do too. We'll catch you guys next time.